Okay, so this morning we have the character Moses. And with Moses, it's a massive story. I spent ages going, there's an awful lot in this story, and I've got 20 minutes. So we're looking at how the story of Moses reflects Jesus. But I think to start off with, we just need to go back a little bit, because before Moses, there's an important character called Joseph. And Joseph comes along to Egypt. He's sent there by his brothers. He becomes very important to Pharaoh. And at the end of the story, he brings his brothers to Egypt, and they live there. They have children there. And eventually they die. But after that, their families grow and grow and grow. So I'm going to need some children to help me, because I need some children to come and be some Israelites. So do I have just a couple of volunteers? Matt, come on up and be... And Blanche, fabulous. So we've got a couple of Israelites. These are God's people, but they're living in Egypt. There is quite a size difference. But you know what? These families grow. So we need some more kids to come and join them. So Grace, come on up. Samuel, come on up. Daniel, come on up. I love that my children haven't got their hands up. Come on up. That's right. Any child with their hand up can come up, all right? Come on up and join our Israelites. So this is about, we're going with 400 years of growth. They've been in Egypt, all these Israelites, for about 400 years. If you move over this way for me, and I think if you imagine that there's like about 1,000, maybe 100,000 for each person here, that's about the number of them. However, there's a ruler in Egypt, and he's not the ruler of the Israelites, he's the ruler of the Egyptians, and he's called Pharaoh. Now, somewhere I have a Pharaoh. Come on up, Pharaoh. Come on up. I love this, it's like panto. It's great. So Pharaoh, just let me get you a microphone so we can hear you. Pharaoh says he doesn't need one, but I think it's more fun this way. So, Pharaoh, you've got all your Egyptians, and you've got all these Israelites living in Egypt. It must be amazing.
Well, you'd think, wouldn't you? But there's loads of them. Look at them, they're everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see Israelites. They're crawling out of the woodwork. Every corner, there's a bunch of Israelites. They're just taking over the place, and they smell. And they don't even worship our gods. And I don't like them. In fact, I'm actually a bit worried about them. I'm worried that all these Israelites are going to take my kingdom away from me.
Okay, so what are you going to do?
I'm going to make them slaves. I'm going to make all these smelly Israelites do the jobs that none of us pharaohs should have to do.
Okay, right, so you're going to make them slaves. Do any of you children know what a slave is? Imi?
It's a person who works for someone and just...
That's a really good start. Molly, what do you want to add?
I can't remember.
You can't remember. Do slaves get paid? No. Do they have to do everything they're told? And do they get a choice? No, they don't get a choice. They have to do everything they're told whenever they're told to do it. So we're going to play a little game. But I do need you to all move this way a little bit, okay? We're going to play a little game called Pharaoh Says. And whatever Pharaoh says, I'm afraid you guys have to do. And I'm giving it over to Brenton, and I'm a little bit concerned, but, it'll be fine. Off you go.
Okay, you know this game, don't you? Okay, so whatever I say, you have to do. Okay? No dissenting, no messing around. So when I say, Pharaoh says, touch your head, you touch your head, otherwise there's going to be trouble. Okay, Pharaoh says, touch your toes, stand up. Pharaoh says, stand up. Pharaoh says, touch your nose. Touch my toes. Pharaoh says, jump up and down. Pharaoh says, run on the spot. Sit down. Pharaoh says, go and touch that pillar at the back. That one will do. Come back. Pharaoh says, come back.
Okay, so the Israelites are having a pretty tough time. They've been made to be slaves. They haven't had a choice in it. And it's really hard for them because, as Pharaoh told you before, he worships different gods. And he won't let the Israelites worship their God. So actually, they're having a really, really horrible time. Now, while that's all happening, an Israelite, so one of you guys, is born called Moses. But Moses grows up with the Egyptians. And then Moses sees how the Egyptians are treating the other Israelites, and he doesn't like it. So he has to go away for a while. And while that happens, the Israelites who are here are still having a horrible tough time. So what you're going to do for me now is you're going to pray. And I want you to shout out for me. Wait a minute, I'm going to tell you without the microphone. Okay. So, I'm going to invite Mia and Ethan up because they're going to tell us the rest of the story. But children, you might want to move that way so you can see the screen because there's going to be some pictures. Okay?
One day, Moses was looking after sheep when something caught his eye. A bush was behaving very oddly. It was flickering with flames, but its leaves weren't burning up. He took a closer look. Moses, boomed a big voice. Moses leapt back. The bush was talking to him. I have heard my people's cries, God said. I have seen their tears, so I have come down to rescue them. Go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go free. Moses was afraid, but God said, I will be with you.
So Moses went to Pharaoh. Pharaoh, Moses began. God, says Pharaoh. Never heard of him. Moses kept going. God says, let his people go free. Why should I? Pharaoh said. Don't want to. Won't. So he didn't. So God gave Pharaoh 10 warnings called plagues. First, God turned the river Nile into blood. No one could drink the water, but still, Pharaoh would not let them go.
So God made frogs come hopping and leaping and jumping, in your bed frogs, in your hair frogs, in your soup frogs, all over, everywhere frogs. Make them go away, Pharaoh screamed. Then your people can go. So God took the frogs away, but Pharaoh changed his mind. No, you can't go, he said.
Then God sent zillions of gnats, or whatever they are. But still, Pharaoh said, no. So then God sent swarms of flies, like flies buzzing in your eyes flies.
And after that, sickness and horrible boils, and huge hailstones, and a storm of locusts. Then darkness, when it should have been day, until it seemed that the whole world, creation and everything, was coming undone, falling back into darkness and emptiness and nothingness.
But each time Pharaoh said, all right, make it stop, and then I'll let him go. And each time when God did actually make it stop, Pharaoh changed his mind and said, actually, no, they can't go. Finally, Moses warned Pharaoh, obey God or he will have to send the worst thing of all. Pharaoh just laughed.
So God said, the oldest boy in each family of Egypt must die, but my people will be safe. But God told his people to take their best lamb, to kill it, and to put some of its blood on the front doors. When God passes over your house, Moses explained, God will see the blood and know that the lamb died instead of you.
I need all my Israelites back. Can I have all my Israelites back? Can they come? This is your door. And what did God say to his people, to his Israelites, that they could do so that they would be safe?
Get their best lamb and put its blood on their door.
Yes, and what's going to happen to the Egyptians? What's going to happen to them?
The eldest son will be killed.
The eldest son will be killed. So, what's wrong with the door? It's got no blood on it. So, let's see. Matt. I'm going to trust Matt, and he's tall enough. Roger's telling me not to, but I trust him, and he's got to spend a week with me. So, I could have him on washing up duty all week if this goes wrong. So, let's do it right. Please, will you paint a nice red line over here for me? Over the top. He is painting red paint on the door, that's right. He's making you guys safe. So, if you guys just go round the corner a little bit, round here, so that you're just round the back of the door, not too far round, because we don't want to knock the board over. I think Roger's holding it up beautifully for me. Right, that'll be wonderful, Matt. Thank you. Okay, so Ethan, do you want to finish for us?
Sure. That night, it was just as God had said. Suddenly, piercing the darkness, echoing down the corridors of the palace, came a blood-curdling scream. Pharaoh's oldest son had died. At last, Pharaoh did what God said.
Thank you very much, Mia and Ethan. Okay, so the Israelites are all safe, but Pharaoh's oldest son wasn't. Pharaoh, how are you feeling about this? You'll need to switch it on.
Pretty upset, actually. I had high hopes for that boy, and now he's gone.
So, what are you feeling about the Israelites?
Oh, hate them. Hate them. Get them out of my sight. Get rid of them. Get
rid
them
of
out
them.
of here.
Get rid of them. I forgot to bring him up earlier, but where's Moses? We have Moses somewhere. I've lost him. Moses, I need you to come and lead your people out. So, children, this is Moses. He is going to lead you out of Egypt. Please be careful of all our signs. Okay, come out safely and carefully for me. Thank you. And follow Moses. Moses is going to take you on a little journey. And he's going to take you to safety. Out of Egypt. Away from slavery. Off you go. Pharaoh, I'm really impressed. You finally listened to God. You finally let all the Israelites go.
Yeah. Do you know, I've got a thought.
Okay.
I've got some unfinished building projects.
Right, but you've got Egyptians.
They're not as good as the Israelites at building.
Okay. But you've let the Israelites go.
Yeah. That wasn't such a good idea, was it?
Well, I thought it was a great idea.
I'm having second thoughts.
So what are you going to do?
I think we're going to have to go get them.
Okay.
Right, I need some soldiers. You'll do, and you, and you. Come on, we're going to go get those Israelites back because we need them to do our work for us. Come on.
Okay, the Israelites are coming down here. Bit worried about what's going on here. The Israelites have got... Oh, no. What's happened, guys?
It's big water.
There's big water. There is. The Red Sea's there, and Pharaoh and his henchmen are right behind you. How are you feeling? A bit scared? A bit worried? Okay. Well, I like this. Moses is trying to send one of the Israelites in front of him towards... I'm not sure that happened, but hey. Right, okay. So... Can we have a huge thank you to all our volunteers, because they can go and sit down now and we're going to watch a video clip. Grand. You might have noticed that we had these robots and these people in. It's just part of the cartoon. They weren't really there. Okay. So, God's people are free. They are no longer slaves. They are the other side of the Red Sea. Just as they have crossed, and they looked at it and they thought, we can't get across that, and God helps them across. They now are the other side. They can't get back, but the Egyptians can't come after them either. So they're free. And God's rescue plan for the Israelites, that's what we've just looked at, but it's part of a much bigger story. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask Chris to come and read a bit more of the Storybook Bible, because it just gives us a great introduction as to how Moses reflects the story of Jesus.
God's people were safe. They danced and laughed and sang and thanked God. When there had been no way out, God had made a way. They were free at last. God's people would always remember this great rescue. But an even greater rescue was coming. Many years later, God was going to do it again. He was going to come down once more to rescue his people. But this time, God was going to set them free forever and ever.
Thank you. So, when God rescues the Israelite, it is part of a much, much bigger plan, because he has a greater plan to save everybody, not just the Israelites. And just like God sends Moses to the Israelites to rescue them from slavery, in his great rescue plan, God sends his son Jesus to come and rescue us from the slavery of sin. So I'm just going to put some verses up. God puts people right through their faith in Jesus Christ. God does this to all who believe in Christ, because there is no difference at all. Everyone has sinned and is far away from God's saving presence. But by the free gift of God's grace, all are put right with him through Christ Jesus, who sets them free. God offered him so that by his blood he should become the means by which people's sins are forgiven through their faith in him. God sends Jesus, his perfect Son, who's done no wrong, to take our punishment for the sin that we've done, to die in our place, also that we can be made right with God. Jesus' blood becomes the means by which our sins are forgiven through our faith in him. When you think back to the Israelites putting that blood over their doorway, that was their means of being right with God. Jesus is our means of being right with God. He's our sacrifice. And just like the Israelites cross the Red Sea, they were free from those Egyptians. When we choose to put our faith in Jesus, when we choose to follow him, when we choose to let him guide us, we become free from the sin that we were slaves to before. When Moses and the Israelites have crossed the Red Sea, they sing a song, and it's a really long song. But Moses and the Israelites sing a song because they're so happy to be free. And I'm just going to ask Becca to come up and read a bit of it for us.
Are there any gods like you, Lord? There are no gods like you. You are wonderfully holy, amazingly powerful, a worker of miracles. You reached out with your right hand, and the earth swallowed our enemies. You keep your loving promise and lead the people you have saved. With your strength, you will guide them to your holy place.
Thank you. That so easily could be a song that we were singing today. It so easily could be one of our songs that we sing. It talks about how amazing God is and how powerful he is and how he's a worker of miracles and how there are no other gods like him. But it also has this bit at the end that says, you keep your loving promise and lead the people you have saved. After the Israelites end up the other side of the Red Sea, life isn't always easy for them. In fact, actually, in that desert, it's really tough. But they continue to follow God, and God continues to guide them, and he continues to be with them. Even when they make their little mistakes and they go their own little ways, God continues to see them through and to guide them and to be there with them. And I think for us, if we've chosen to follow Jesus today, life can be really tough. But actually, as long as we remember that that same God who guided those Israelites is the same God we worship today, and that actually he is guiding us and leading us, and that we can follow him, and that he's with us through whatever we're going through. I think that is the big point I want you to take away today, that the same God of Moses is the same God we worship today, and just as he rescued them, he has rescued us.